Now let's talk about literals. In Python, we can use literals in order to encode data and put them into your code. A literal is data which values are determined by the literal itself. For example, the number 200, the string hello, the string Python, or the number -89. Any other data, such as name, C, age, and print, are not literals. We don't know what value they have or what they're supposed to represent. There are 4 types of literals. The first literal type is the integer. An integer is a number that doesn't have a fraction. So for example, the numbers 200, 1,289,901, -90, or 1 million. The underscores in the 1 million are just a way for developers to make large numbers more readable, but they aren't necessary. There's also octal numbers. If an integer number has a 0 in front of it, we know that it's an octal number. You can calculate the value of an octal number by first assigning a value to each number from the right, starting at 0. These values are used in order to calculate 8 to the power of these values. It's 8 since it's an octal number. Then we calculate the results. 8 to the power of 2 results in 64. 8 to the power of 1 results in 8, and 8 to the power of 0 results in 1. Finally, we multiply the result of the previously calculated values with the numbers of the actual number. 64 times 1 is 64. 8 times 2 is 16. And 3 times 1 is 3. Then there's hexadecimal numbers that work almost identically to the octal numbers. However, instead of using 8 as the base, a hexadecimal number uses 16 as the base. You can identify hexadecimal values by the 0x in front of them. First, we calculate the position of each value starting from the right. These values are used in order to calculate 16 to the power of these values. Then we calculate the result. So 16 to the power of 2 results in 256, 16 to the power of 1 results in 16, and 16 to the power of 0 results in 1. Finally, we multiply the result of the previously calculated values with the numbers of the actual numbers. So 256 times 1 is 256, 16 times 2 is 32, and 3 times 1 is 3. This results in 291. Then there is another type of number, namely floating point numbers. A floating point number has a non-empty decimal fraction. Numbers that contain a lot of decimals can also be written with an e in order to represent the number in a more economical form. Then there are strings, which are used to represent text. In order for Python to recognize the value as a string, the value needs to be wrapped in either double quotes or single quotes. If you need quotes within the string itself, you can do so by using a single quote if you started the string with a double quote, and vice versa. Another way of being able to use quotes within a string is by using the escape character. The escape character lets Python know that the quote after the backslash doesn't mean that the string ends there, but it's just a quote. Lastly, there is booleans. There are 2 boolean values. Something is either true or something is false. Sometimes you see that the truthfulness of a value is represented by either a 0 or a 1. In this numeric context, a 1 means that the value is true, whereas 0 means that the value is false. Let's summarize everything that we've just learned about literals. First, we have several ways to display numbers in Python. An integer is a number without a fraction, and can also be displayed as an octal or a hexadecimal number. Then there is floating points, which are numbers that contain decimals. Strings are used in order to represent text, and can be wrapped in either double quotes or single quotes. If you want to use quotes within quotes, you can either use the other type of quote in order to make sure that Python doesn't see this as a delimiter and ends your string, or you can use the escape character to let Python know that the quote is a special character. Lastly, there are Boolean values that specify whether a value is either true or false. They can also be represented as numbers, 0 being false and 1 being true. That's it for this lecture. head over to the labs and start practicing what you've just learned.